All right, we're back. Today, I'm going to be going over the box-to-box midfielders. If you saw my 26-man roster, the full World Cup roster, you'll see why I have such a limited number of these box-to-box midfielders. And that's, of course, because we're going to be playing the 5-back with the 2 wing-backs kind of slotting into the outside of the midfield. So you'll see what I mean once we go over that more. We'll go watch that video if you want to understand where I'm coming from with that. Other than that, let's get into it. So first we got Tyler Adams, of course, just an absolute animal. He's literally all over the field. He's going to be starting at CDM for us. Exceptional at winning the ball. Super tactically disciplined. He kind of, when he is playing in that CDM, the sole CDM, he just kind of roams wherever the ball is coming, and he just is always in the right place at the right time, just shutting down attacks. He had so much support to that back three that they rarely see much when he's out there. But if he ever needs to step up and hit a banger like he did in that Nations League final a couple years back, he can do so with ease. So yeah, I think he's a guaranteed start, guaranteed lock. If he's back from injury, for sure he's good to go. But hopefully he's back by then. Of course, all the leadership qualities as well. He was the captain in the previous World Cup. Just brings such a fire, such an edge out there that I think he's definitely our starting CDM for the World Cup. And then next, I got him starting in the center mid position. And that's Weston McKennie, Juventus's best player. Whatever you want to say, whether you say he's hurting relationships over at Juventus, like it comes out once a year, or he's, just the silly goofball off the pitch. He's always performing for both club and country, so I think he's definitely going to get a call to the squad, but I see him starting at the center mid position. He's had great form in Serie A as of late. I think one thing that not only fans but also the coaches loved was that red card incident against Mexico a few years back, when I want to say it was either Freeman or Berhalter. One of them was getting chippy with the other Mexico player, and McKennie, he had his shirt all ripped up after coming in to defend his teammate, and he's kissing the badge after. That's just he's the man. Great aerial threat. He's so creative with the ball at his feet, so much flair, a lot of creativity. So he's likely going to be starting for us at the World Cup. The next guy, it's going to be tough to say whether he'll be starting or not, or whether he gets brought or not. But I definitely could see. I think when they're in form and they're playing, I think they're our best 2 options, and that the first one of those guys is going to be Yunus Musah. Exceptional at carrying the ball and progressing it up the field. Just dribbling through defenders basically, like they're not even there. He's really he might struggle on playing that last ball, but he's really talented at progressing it through, just dribbling it up the pitch, of course, and he has kind of had inconsistent minutes over at Atalanta, but even then, I think anytime he's called up for us, regardless of how consistent his minutes are over with his club, I think he's always performed. So, how you play at your club it could be totally different versus how you play for country, and I think he's one of those guys that he just has so much quality. It always shines through for the national team. I was on Instagram like a week ago, and I was scrolling through, and I saw one of England's youth national teams where it's Bellingham, maybe Musiala, I don't know, but a bunch of like current England players, and the captain on that team was Yunus Musah. So it's just funny to me how times have changed in that sense. But I see him getting brought. He would be coming off the bench. I could definitely see him playing either role, whether that's in between the left and the right mid, or it's playing that CDM, but likely playing in between the left and right mids. And then the next guy, probably my hottest take on the roster so far. Maybe the Gaga Slanina take might be pretty hot, but I think this one's probably my hottest take. I, I I think it's the right move, but I think it's still a hot take, and that's bringing Sebastian Berhalter. I see him. Oh, I'm not gonna guarantee he's gonna get called up, but I'm very confident he gets called up. I mean, you saw his highlights from the window with the Uruguay game. I don't know if it was that one or one of the other games that he played in that window where he had he banged that one top corner, and then he also had that nice assist to, I think, Haji Wright or Alex Freeman, one or the other. He was our best player on the pitch that day and one of our best wins in recent memory. So um, he brings that chippiness, he brings that edge, always fired up, ready to bite someone's face off. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. I thought it was kind of funny that he never got a call up under his dad, but then right when his dad leaves the team, he starts getting call ups, and then he's playing great. So I thought that was funny. But he's been great for club, great for country. I see him getting called up, and he slides into that CDM role perfectly. Um, One of the guys on the outside looking in definitely is Aiden Morris. Great box to box. He's doing well over in the championship at Middlesbrough. Gets called up by Poch very frequently. I just think he's getting blocked by Berhalter, Musah, and Adams and McKennie, of course. So I don't think he's really been able to get the most consistent minutes for the national team. But you never know if injuries happen. I could see him being one of the first call-ups. Luca Della Torre, great CDM. He's also great, kind of like Yunus Musah in the sense where when the ball's at his feet, he can progress it just as good as anyone else. He's great in that sense. Not the biggest, most physical guy, but he's always kind of in the right spot, kind of like that Tyler Adams a little bit. Just doesn't play with that killer mentality that Adams does play with. Next is the brother of one of our invitees, and that would be Paxton Aronson. Great youth energy, good pace. He's more of like an attacking mid kind of guy. I guess you could kind of put him in my next group, but I just don't think he has the history with the national team. I don't think he has the success that we're really looking for, kind of like some of the other guys that I have mentioned. But I think he'd be a good option, if we ever need, if we got an injury and we got to call him up. I think he'd be a good fit for that. But he'd be more of like an attacker, kind of like playing up in between the, just in behind the striker there. So I don't think he'd necessarily be a box to box player, but you never know. Next is Gianluca Busio. Super creative passer. He's De Bruyne-esque. Obviously, he's not exactly Kevin De Bruyne, but you get what I'm saying. He's been doing well in Serie A. Doesn't really have the physicality we're looking for. I guess you could kind of say he'd be competing with Musah for a roster spot, and I just think Musah's levels above him. But once again, with the injury statement, so anyone could get injured, anyone could get called up, so you never know. Next is a guy maybe in that Berhalter spot. I don't see it likely just because he hasn't been called up under Poch. That's Kellen Acosta. One of my favorite moments was in the previous World Cup, I believe against Iran, when they were not entirely through on goal, but Turner was off his line and the player was dribbling and he just crossed midfield, and say we had one defender back, Kellen Acosta just wiped him out. That's just the game knowledge and situational awareness, that veteran move that you need in those kind of situations. I do think he's getting a little older. He's I think he's 30 at the time of film, but I'm not entirely sure. great on set pieces. He can hit free kicks, he can curve balls in, but that's kind of why I see Berhalter in that situation as well. But I could see those two guys kind of being interchangeable, but likely gonna go Berhalter, especially for the youth. Um, Another guy who I thought played great in that Uruguay game was Timmy Tillman. Um, he had that awesome slide tackle to force the turnover, which allowed Berhalter. I don't remember if that was the assist or the goal, but he had that slide tackle to break it up there, and that, of course, was a legendary game. We destroyed him, but he's great in the MLS. Maybe that link up with Malik Tillman. You never know if they're both starting or both currently on the pitch at the same time. That could be legendary, but he'd be more of a depth guy, and I see him being on the outside looking in for sure. He hasn't really separated himself from the pack other than that one nice slide tackle he had, but yeah, I don't see him making it. Another guy is James Sands. He really could play anywhere in the midfield. He's also kind of like a center back a little bit, so he'd probably be like a defensive mid center back hybrid kind of guy. He's playing well for his club. He was over in Europe for a little bit, didn't quite take that next step like some of the other guys, like the Tyler Adams when they make their move over, like Brendan Aronson currently, Pulisic when he went over there, of course, McKennie, like he just didn't take that next step. He kind of halted his development a little bit, but he's back in the MLS and he's performing well. So I just don't see him getting a call up, but maybe that positional flexibility helps him. You never know. Johnny Cardoso, of course, Atletico Madrid, star over there. He hasn't been playing much and been getting the minutes that we necessarily need as of late, but super physical, great with the ball at his feet. I'd see him competing directly with Tyler Adams, and I just don't think he has the edge on Adams. I think Adams has got him by quite a bit, but you never know. If Adams isn't back in time, I definitely could see him getting the call up in that position. The next guy's a fun one. Tanner Tessman with Lyon. Everyone says he was a former D1 kicker and at Clemson because his uncle, what's his name? The Clemson head coach. I don't know how I'm forgetting his name, but I never saw him kick. But anyways, he's more of like a sit back playmaker and kind of play balls through. He's not really the defensive mid. He's more of an attacking defensive mid, if that makes sense, what I'm getting at. But he's been, I think he's been great over at Lyon. He played for us in the Olympics with the under-23 squad, and I thought he did well. Not too much televising of those games, but I thought he did well. He's a good, strong threat in the box. If we got to attack a header aerially or something, he's great in that sense. But kind of like if Musah gets injured, if McKennie gets injured, I could see Tessman very likely getting a spot on the roster. But the next guy is Leonard Maloney. Played a couple times under Berhalter. He's he hasn't really shown anything for us. I don't see him getting brought. That's about all I need to say about that. Next guy, Alan Senora. One of my favorite highlights of him was when we were playing Mexico in the Continental Clasico. I want to say 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Who knows how long ago it was? But we were down 0-1. Dest had just won the ball in our half. Dribbles past three guys. Plays it off to Senora. Senora plays a beautiful ball up on the left. I forget who to. They swing it in. The deflection. Jesus Ferreira buries it. I mean, that was just one of his cool moments. But, he's a creative box-to-box kind of midfielder. Not the most athletic guy, fastest, quickest, strongest, but he's always playing the right passes, always in the right position. I think he'd be more of a long shot though. And that's Owen Wolf. He's got that insane engine down in Austin. Good MLS minutes. No senior caps yet, but I think he'll be ready, and he'll be in the next few, potentially the next few camps after the World Cup, preparing for that 2030 cycle. Yeah, those are my midfielders, my 4 box-to-box midfielders. If you have anything you disagree with, anything you agree with, drop it in the comments, like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.